The chair recognizes the honourable member for East Grand Bahama.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, it is again an awesome privilege to rise in this honorable House to represent the good people of East Grand Bahama, a privilege that I do not take for granted, a privilege that I thank them every day for their confidence in me and for having this great opportunity to represent them in this honorable place. Madam Speaker, the member, I believe, for Freetown had also tabled some amendments, and I believe a statement was presented. Let me say at the outset that the Free National Movement has very serious concerns with respect to what has been tabled. Those concerns will be articulated by the Deputy Leader when he has the nearest opportunity to do so. But it is really a fundamental question, and it affects really the fundamental question that demands us to bring the nation along, and not just to inform the nation of changes. But I believe and we're talking about the changes to the election, yes. But it requires us to bring the nation along, not just to dictate to the nation what the changes would be. And so those concerns, I'm sure, will be articulated by the Deputy Leader.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Freetown.
It was the IT project manager was present. The parliamentary commissioner was present. The parliamentary commissioner and his team briefed the member for Cat Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador, and the member for St. Barnabas, and the leader of the Coalition of Independence, since they have a member of parliament. On Monday, I'm advised by the parliamentary commissioner that while the Coalition of Independence did raise some issues, St. Barnabas did not. No. It is a technical thing that Bahamians have been crying out for years and years and years. And so at the end of the day, Madam Speaker, we will see. This will be debated. We expect to set this to be debated next week. The parliamentary commissioner has indicated that they intend to have an education process. To be quite clear, if you don't want a polycarbonate voting card, you could keep the paper one. And that's just very clear. So, yeah, but
you're an experienced member of the House.
And that's why. But my late friend Rodney Monkis said, when you see smart people doing apparently crazy things, it's for a reason. And that is why I engaged this, Madam Speaker. But it is quite clear. The parliamentary commissioner will advise the public of how they have responded to their request. And we will debate this fully. Next week, we intend to debate it.
Thank you, honourable member. The chair recognizes the honourable member for St. Barnabas.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Just to be clear, Madam Speaker, the honourable member for Freetown's characterization of our participation in that meeting where the Prime Minister was present along with the leader of the coalition is wrong and off target. Concerns were expressed, questions were asked, so he's completely wrong. And while we hear the honourable member, we say that we just have general concerns and some specific concerns, but the fact that there's not been widespread consultation, Madam Speaker, and to the point of the honourable member for East Grand Bahama, We don't want the Bahamian, we want the Bahamian people to be brought along, not dragged along, as we change the voting culture of voters in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and the concerns that.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member.
Again, this is, I guess we ought to expect the posturing over this issue. But I want the Bahamian people to understand and appreciate, right, that what is happening, is, and perhaps what they're vexed about is they didn't have the time to do it. We are not introducing a law on biometrics,
8 months to.
What we are introducing is the process under which we could get to biometrics. The law for biometrics was introduced by yourselves in 2020. You all were moving to get it done, right? But the member for Kalani called his election before you'll get it done. The records are there. Just look at the law. That's all we were doing, and we are doing it. And look, the election's not due. I heard you say the haste. What haste? So understand, we only completing what you started, and we also for time immemorial,
Which is
right?
1066.
Our overseas monitors our elections have been decrying the use of the paper voters card and been making recommendations for us to move to the biometrics. So we're also complying with international best practice. So I don't want to, and there's a rule again, don't anticipate. Let's go out there, as I said to you, during the course of our being briefed by the parliamentary commissioner, we have the opportunity and duty to go and brief our people and let them understand what it's all about, and that will happen. We're not dragging anyone, they'll be a part of it. They will be part of it.
Tell the leader send you to the leader. Thank you, Honourable Member.
Again,
East Grand Bahama, you may proceed.
The question that I raised was it had nothing to do with whether we agree or don't agree with moving forward. The question that I raised was, you are debating this. You anticipate to debate this next week. That's what you have indicated. You've tabled them this week, but the public does not have any information as to what it is that is going on. What the point I was making, and the point that the opposition had discussed, and the opposition, I'm sure, is going to speak to it, is that you are changing the law. You are introducing a new process. It is a new change. It is a new process. This process does not exist. So it is a new process. So you are introducing a new process, and you have not spoken to the Bahamian public as to what this process is. And to say that you are going to say that you have consulted or that you have spoken to the political parties in a half-hour meeting is nowhere near what is required. So our issue is with respect to full consultation to the Bahamian public. That's all.
Madam Speaker.
Let's debate the bill now and pass it.
Right, Madam Speaker.
Let's drop the segregated accounts bill and let's debate this one now and pass it.
It's very disingenuous, right? What we are doing is the substantive law has been done, and that was done by the F&M administration. The substantive law is that we are moving to biometrics.
Yes.
You all did that, and then in anticipation of moving to biometrics, you amended the power of the minister to make regulations for the purposes of introduction, which is the process, right? So when that was introduced, when you all moved to the continuous register, did you have that? Did you consult the public? Did you talk to the public? Right? Because if you did, why do we have to repeat it? So did you all do it?
No.
If you did, then why? No, I'm not conceding anything. What I'm saying is that, I'm saying,
He's teaching you.
look, you all want another briefing?
Consultation. And my position is you are conceding that there's been no consultation, and our position is that you
chair recognizes
should
the
and
honourable
must
member
consult with the public. That's
For
all.
Freetown. Members,
Must now consult with the public before you agree to it.
chair recognizes the
That's the
honourable
point.
member for Freetown.
Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, this is clearly raised for the three people sitting at the back of the chamber. The press. And, Madam Speaker, to be quite blunt to the Bahamian people, the policy decision about moving to biometric cards has been made. You consult about policy decisions. So once one speaks about you've agreed that you're moving to it, I can see why they accomplish nothing, because they want consultation about the color of the card, about the type of the card. And so, Madam Speaker, at the end of the day, if the member for East Grand Bahama had listened to the communication, the policy decision was made by them. No wonder they accomplish nothing if they are going to say we need to have protracted discussion about the color of the card. All of what is there was done by them. They should just take credit for this as they were taking credit for other things. But this is meant for mischief, Madam Speaker. And I call it out for what it is. This is meant for mischief. And that is what they have to decide, Madam Speaker, on which side of history they will be with this card.
Yes.
The Bahamian public want an upgraded secure card. They will either be on the correct side of this, or they'll be on the wrong side as they were with independence.
Thank you, honourable member. And honourable members, let's get on with the debate that is at hand. The chair recognizes the honourable member for St. Barnabas.
Thank you very
Let's
much.
conclude.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. Madam Speaker, based on what the member for Freetown just said, it is obvious, Madam Speaker, that the government does not intend to do any real consultation before the debate, Madam Speaker. But, Madam Speaker, fundamentally, right, the government is diminishing, in our view, the gravity of it when you think about the fundamental fact, Madam Speaker, that every voter is going to have to give their consent for these biometrics to be transferred from one department to the next, shows the great gravity of what we are going to be doing, and we feel that the way the government is approaching this, they're diminishing the gravity of this situation, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, honourable member. The chair recognizes the honourable member for Freetown.
Again, the member for St. Barnabas is suggesting that somebody is pressuring somebody. He must not have been listening. And so, well, I don't know, he didn't hear the part about you don't have to do it when
Yes, I
the
heard it.
parliamentary
And
commission
I wanted
does
to
it the first time. But, Madam
You have a
Speaker,
choice.
the record is clear, the communication is clear, it's a matter of choice. If you don't want it, you don't have to have it.
That's it.
It's mischief, that's what it is. And we're debating the segregated accounts company bill while this mischief is set afoot.
Thank you, honourable member. East Grand Bahama, let's proceed with the segregated accounts companies bill, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this government again has presented a bill that it claims will modernize our financial sector and enhance our global competitiveness. The Segregated Accounts Companies Bill, and while on the surface the legislation does appear to be technically sound, really, and this only emphasizes the point that I had in my speech, is that what we really ought to be debating is a question of trust, and we really ought to be debating a question of governance. And we should also be debating whether this administration is doing all it can to bring relief to the Bahamian public, relief from the cost of living crisis, relief from the immigration crisis, and the slow economic growth. And I would also say relief from the manner upon which they are treating Bahamians. Because, Madam Speaker, for them to bring a piece of legislation to Parliament to debate this and for us to make it law without first consulting, again, speaks to the type of governance that this PLP government is proceeding with. Madam Speaker, let me be clear from the outset. The opposition supports this legislation. We support it. We support it because it originated from the financial services industry itself. Once, Madam Speaker, it was endorsed and advocated for. Once it was endorsed, and advocated for by those who understand its implications best, the industry professionals, practitioners, and regulators, we supported this highly technical and specialized bill. It must be noted, however, that the financial services industry must not only be supported by both sides of this House, but it must also be led by industry. And we've said this before, Madam Speaker, that these financial services bills should be non-controversial. They should be fully consulted by the industry. And as I understand it, and what we on this side were advised of, was that it was the industry that championed this, the industry that pressed for this, and the government agreed. And so this is indeed a bill that was industry-driven. Madam Speaker, you may ask why this bill is important. Because we've been advised that it provides a better protection for investors and their clients. We have been advised that under this framework, each client's assets are what they call ring-fenced, meaning if one part of the company faces legal or financial difficulty, the assets in the other accounts remain untouched and secure. This is a critical safeguard that strengthens confidence in our financial jurisdiction. We have been advised also that this structure carries a lower legal risk, significantly reduces the chance of lawsuits and financial losses spreading across unrelated accounts, rather than requiring the creation of multiple standalone companies, each with a separate licensing, separate fees, and separate compliance burdens. Businesses can operate one entity with multiple protected compartments. That's the kind of forward-thinking, industry-led reform that can make the Bahamas more and more competitive and resilient. We have also been advised that international investors and financial institutions demand safe, efficient, and modern legal frameworks in order to operate confidently. This bill positions the Bahamas to meet that demand. It aligns us with other competitive jurisdictions that have already adopted this segregated accounts company model. By doing so, we strengthen our competitive standing in the global financial arena. This legislation gives the Bahamas a much-needed regulatory edge, making us more attractive to hedge funds private equity firms, insurance companies, and high net worth individuals who are constantly evaluating where best to domicile their capital. These are the kinds of strategic reforms we must embrace, not only to keep pace with our competitors, but to lead. Madam Speaker, while we acknowledge the potential benefits of the Segregated Accounts Companies Bill, we cannot debate this measure in good faith without reflecting on the challenges that the country faced with respect to the FTX debacle, in an event that severely damaged the Bahamas' financial reputation. The FTX collapse exposed regulatory blind spots and enforcement issues. We cannot risk repeating history. Legislation without accountability and promises without protection. Madam Speaker, this legislation must not become another tool to benefit the well-connected or elite financial players at the expense of ordinary investors. The very essence of segregated accounts is to promise that each client's assets are protected from the risk and liabilities of others. But that promise is only meaningful if it is enforced and clearly communicated. We must ensure that clients, whether Bahamian investors or international fund participants, are made fully aware of their rights, the structure of their accounts, and the protections available under law. Moreover, this bill must include robust mechanisms for internal reporting, oversight, and whistleblower protections to guard against misuse. Investor protection cannot be an afterthought. It must be at the heart of this reform. The government must also understand that this is more than just a technical bill. It is an opportunity for strategic way forward that will restore investor confidence and reposition the Bahamas as a trusted financial services jurisdiction. Madam Speaker, we, as I said, support this technical bill. It is a bill that that was endorsed, put forward by the industry, and so we on this side support this bill. Madam Speaker, when we are speaking about investment funds and investment structures, a relevant question comes to mind, and that is a point that was raised by the Prime Minister during the budget debate, which was that they anticipate having a surplus of about $75 million at the end of this budget year, a $75 million surplus at the end of this budget year. But, Madam Speaker, the Davis administration also claimed that there was, in new borrowings, there was a $300 million new borrowing, and that $300 million in new borrowings would be placed or would be invested in the National Investment Fund. Now, there was approval to borrow the $300 million, but, Madam Speaker, our challenge is we did not see the allocation of the $300 million, or we did not see where the $300 million was being invested into the National Investment Fund in the budget debate, or in the budget documents, or in an allocation in the budget. So if this is new spending, because the $300 million was borrowed by the government, and the government is now spending it and putting it into the National Investment Fund, if it is new borrowing, new spending, $300 million, we need to understand how does this affect your $75 million projected surplus? Because if the $300 million was not taken into account in the budget, if it was not allocated in the budget, then it meant it was not taken into account when you projected your $75 million surplus. while the government has legal authority to borrow this 300 million, they do not yet have the legal authority to spend or to invest it. According to Section 16, Sub 4 of the Public Debt Management Act, all borrowed funds must be paid into the consolidated fund. Once deposited, those funds cannot be used unless they are specifically appropriated by Parliament under an approved budget line item, as mandated by Article 130 and 131 of the Constitution, and reinforced by the Public Financial Management Act. The government must answer where is the line item to spend the $300 million and put it in the National Investment Fund. We do not see it in the budget. We do not see it. We do not see it in the budget document. So we also need to understand where the $300 million is in the budget, and we also need to understand how, if you assessed a $75 million surplus and you did not take into account the $300 million new spending in the National Investment Fund, what does that now do to the projected $75 million surplus?
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Freetown.
About the borrowing and this borrowing resolution.
No, I'm not talking about borrowing. You borrowed it. Yes,
Okay.
you got approval to borrow. Yeah, I'm not talking about
The
borrowing.
question I asked is whether he's speaking of the borrowing authorized by this borrowing
No.
resolution.
No.
That speak to the purpose for it.
No.
Okay.
No, I'm not talking about
Okay.
Yeah, talking about something else. Madam Speaker, also, and that again is an issue that we raise. It is a question that we raise. It is a point that we raise in the public and a point now that we raise in the House. And we wish to have an answer, and the public also deserves an answer with respect to it. Madam Speaker, we also raise a national question with respect to, and it also speaks to investments or public investments, because obviously the government invested a certain amount of monies into the Grand Lucayan, and there is a question that what is now the status at the Grand Lucayan? The Grand Lucayan, as we have been informed, is no longer taking reservations. They are, in essence, proceeding to close. They are no longer taking reservations to when it comes to their ballroom and how they do business and so on. So we need to understand what is the plans with respect to the Grand Lucayan. An announcement was made, an announcement about $120 million were made. We had raised questions, we on this side, the leader of the opposition on this side raised questions as to, was an agreement for sale signed? Was a conveyance signed? Was there the $120 million, was that in the bank? Was that transferred over to the government? We do not see any information, and the government has not been forthcoming with the information as to what is happening. We need to understand what is happening with respect to the Grand Lucayan, what's happening with respect to the Grand Lucayan deal. Have you received the funds? Have you received the conveyance? What is the plans moving forward? The government also had spoken about demolition. One can look at the site now, and there is no indication whatsoever of demolition being planned to occur. So we need to, again, understand what's happening. Also, Madam Speaker, the employees have not been informed as to what is the status of their employment, when they are going to be transferred over, or if they are going to be transferred over, when they're going to be severed, what is the severance pay going to be. All of that, Madam Speaker, speaks to the government lack of providing transparent information in their dealings. And so, Madam Speaker, that is a relevant question that we have, in addition to them investing the $300 million in the National Investment Fund. What does that do to their projected surplus? We also need to understand what is the status on the Grand Lucayan. We, Madam Speaker, while we acknowledge the importance of this, in this financial sector, we have difficulty agreeing and have no difficulty, agreeing to measures that aim to strengthen the financial services industry. We must also state clearly that the government's priority must extend beyond these niche markets. The Bahamian people are crying out for relief from the crushing burden of the high cost of living. Yes. So it is fine that you have determined that we are going to press forward with respect to the financial services industry and moving that industry forward, that you have listened to industry, and industry now has put forward their recommendations. Madam Speaker, what relief are you putting forward for the majority of Bahamians who are struggling with the high cost of living? Madam Speaker, every time I go out and I knock on doors and I listen to constituents, that is their main concern, is what relief is going to happen for them with respect to the high cost of living, with respect to the fishermen, Madam Speaker, spoke to me in East Grand Bahama just yesterday about the high cost that they have to pay to be able to license and to deal with their boats as a result of the increase that the government had put on them. So, Madam Speaker, from the stagnant wages, from the lack of meaningful economic development in many of our communities, we need to understand the government must put forward a plan as to how they are going to address these relevant issues for the Bahamian public. Madam Speaker, the majority of the public they are not paying attention to the segregated accounts companies bill, but they are paying attention every time they have to go to the food store and pay higher prices, every time that they collect a wage and it is still stagnant, it is still the same. And so we need to understand what the government's plan is to increase the economic growth with respect to this country, Madam Speaker. The government must act with equal urgency to stimulate broad-based economic growth and bring tangible relief to those who need it the most. The prosperity of the Bahamas must be shared for us all. Everyone must eat. Madam Speaker, as I take my seat, the government has pressed forward with respect to the borrowing of a $195 million loan from the Chinese Export-Import Bank. And the central question that we on this side have is a question with respect to what strings are attached to this loan. And if there is a mandatory 50% Chinese labor component to this loan. In other words, if we borrow this money, is it now mandatory that we must use 50% Chinese labor when it comes to constructing the hospital? And Madam Speaker, the challenge is, if that is so, that is completely contrary to the government's policy, where it is 80% Bahamian and 20% non-Bahamian. So, Madam Speaker, we need to understand why it is that we should proceed with this loan if there is a 50% mandatory Chinese labor component that comes with it, contrary to the government's, and this, when I speak about the government, I mean both governments, have abided by the 80-20% ratio, 80% Bahamian labor and 20% non-Bahamian labor, and that does not appear to be the case with respect to this hospital loan. Madam Speaker, we've also been asked to ask the government with respect to the food services at the hospital in New Providence. Months ago, the hospital's food services were operated at UB, and they would then transport those food services to the hospital, I suppose, on a daily basis. We were advised that this should have been for 6 months. Madam Speaker, can the government now speak to when this, or how long this food services situation has been going on, and when they anticipate that this food services situation will come to an end? Madam Speaker, so it is a challenge for anyone to move and have to move food from UB to the hospital on a daily basis and 3 times a day. So, Madam Speaker, we need to understand what is happening with respect to this. And as I take my seat, Madam Speaker, we are talking about companies, and we are talking about incorporating companies. So can the government now also speak to a company that has been incorporated, a company that's named Carmichael Village Project Development Company, a company that was formed in 2022, now listed, it is listed at the Registrar General's office. It was loaned $10 million from the government. $10 million was placed in this company. There's been no public explanation, no press release, no accountability from the Ministry of Housing. It was buried at page 30 of the Ministry of Finance's own third quarter report, which said that $10 million went into this company. It's also listed, Madam Speaker, that this company is a government business enterprise. But if it is a government business enterprise, and that means then it is subject to the rules of the Public Financial Management Act. And it requires a full board, transparent operations, public reporting. So we need to understand that if this company received $10 million of government's money, the people's money, then they must be transparent to say what has been done with respect to this. The leader of the opposition raised this countless times from the budget debate moving forward, and there has still been no response to this. So hopefully, because we are now talking about incorporating companies, that somebody will answer the questions that have been raised by the leader of the opposition and the questions that has been raised by those of us on this side. Madam Speaker, as we said, we support this legislation. It is industry-driven. But what we do not support is the manner upon which this government has been treating Bahamians. We do not support that if you are proceeding with any legislation, if you are proceeding with any change, if you are proceeding with any action, that you are proceeding with it without first being transparent and informing the public as to what you are doing. You are not consulting. You are doing business behind closed doors. And so, Madam Speaker, those of us on this side, while we support the legislation, we do not support the manner upon which this government has been treating Bahamians. Thank you very much.